G'day. It's Matt Doyle here from Provider Academy, where we are all about empowering NDIS providers to build businesses that thrive and change lots of lives. And so, in this really quick video today, I wanted to have a quick chat about pricing. How should you price your NDIS service? Should you take the price guide and just charge the maximum rate that the price guide says you should? Should you set your price rate at what you think is fair? Should you just guess and go somewhere in between? How should you set a price for the services that you provide to your clients in your NDIS business? I was recently in a Facebook group and there was a bit of a discussion around this very issue where somebody was just making the comment, completely fair and a completely fair theory, I suppose would be the way to put it, around pricing, where they said, well, I don't want to charge the maximum rate just because that's the amount I'm allowed to charge. I'd rather charge what I feel is fair and reasonable for my client. Now, that's a very right attitude to take in the case that it puts the client at the forefront of how we're thinking. It shows that somebody is really aware of the need to not just take as much as they can from a client's budget for their service, but also it shows a real respect for the fact that our clients often have a very limited amount of budget available that they have to spread a long way for a range of different services. So that theory behind that idea that we should set our price by what we think is fair works well. Unfortunately, though, fair and reasonable often doesn't balance up well or doesn't hold up when we stand it against reality. The reality is, at the end of the day, you're running a business that has to not just survive, it has to thrive for the long term if you want to keep helping people over the long term. So how should you set the pricing for your NDIS services, for the services that you provide to your clients? Today, I want to show you a really quick formula that is sort of the basis that we should use for how we set our prices. And so just excuse me the wobble here as I'm going to grab my little camera, flip it around. Whoa, I'm pretty close there. All right, and so you can see here we've got a little bit of a formula that you can use when you're trying to set your prices. So pricing for your NDIS services basically should look a little bit like this. Your price should equal the real delivery cost. So think if you're pricing by the hour, your price should equal the real delivery cost of the hour of that service, and then it should also cover the fixed costs divided by your total number of billable hours, and of course any profit margin that you need to make. So what is the first part of the equation? What is the real delivery cost of an hour of your service? So your real delivery cost is obviously the hourly rate. If you're paying somebody to deliver that service, you have to pay them by the hour. So the hourly rate is the obvious part of that real delivery cost. Then you've got any on costs. So you have to allow for things like the superannuation and work cover on top of that hourly rate. So generally speaking, as a general rule, whatever a staff member costs you, whether by the hour or by the week, you should multiply that by 1.25 and you'll get the real cost of what it costs you to employ that staff member. So the hourly rate plus the on costs plus any offline time, or the average amount of offline time per hour. So if you have 8 hours a day that you have a staff member on board and they bill for services for 5 hours of those 8 hours a day, then in your hourly rate, you have to cover that 3 hours that you're still paying that staff member despite them being offline at that time. Now, you can't charge your clients extra for the offline time. So you have to make sure it's actually built into the hourly rate. It's baked into the rate that you charge for the hours of service that you do deliver. So there are other things that might come into your real delivery costs. There might be things like costs of running vehicles between services, those kind of things, but often they might fall under other items like transport or that kind of thing. So it's up to you to know whether that's a real delivery cost for you or not. But these are the basics, things like your hourly rate, your on costs, and your offline time that you have to allow for. Make up part of your real delivery costs. But it's up to you in each individual business to know exactly what your real delivery costs are. Then we come down to your fixed costs. Now, your fixed costs are all those kind of things that you have to pay whether you get serving clients or not. So whether you're getting paid or not, you have to be meeting these expenses. You have to do your accreditation audit. I believe it's every 3 years. Once you get that done the first time, you're going to be re-audited. I think it's every 3 years. So you actually got to factor in that as a fixed cost you have to meet every 3 years, and you have to allow for it across that cycle. Rent. administration staff, any other staff you have that aren't actually billing clients. So any management or leadership who are running the business but not necessarily billing clients themselves. You have to allow for asset wear and replacement, utilities like lights, electricity, etc. Your professional accreditations that you might need. So if you're an allied health professional, you've got to be thinking about your registration costs and all of those things. Insurances, professional development costs. So whether it's for you or your staff, any training that you have to pay for, they're not billing anybody at that time. So you have to build an allowance of that into your fixed costs. And I said, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because this is definitely not an all-exclusive list. So you should sit down and figure out what your fixed costs cost you on an annual basis, and then divide that, of course, by your billable hours per year. This is actually quite challenging writing looking through a camera. So get your annual, what it costs you in fixed costs per year, divide that by the total amount of billable hours you have in a year. Of course, you have to get that to your best estimation, especially early when a lot of people don't have 12 months worth of trading to look at yet. And that will give you a cost, what we could call a fixed cost per hour. So then, to figure out how much we should be charging per hour, we grab what we'll call our RDC, that real delivery cost per hour, plus we'll add in our fixed costs per every billable hour. Oh, that's a bit sketchy. Plus, we need an annual profit target. Again, so set your annual profit target, divide it by billable hours, and then you have a profit target per hour, and that is the price that you need to be charging to your clients. Obviously, you need to make sure that that amount fits within the price guide of what you're allowed to charge. If you do that maths and it comes out at above what you're allowed to charge under the price guide, then you're going to need to do a little bit of squeezing and cutting, particularly your fixed costs wherever possible. That word there that some people don't like to talk about on the bottom line, profit, let's be pretty blunt. If you're not making a profit, then by definition, you are losing money. And you can only lose money for so long before you go broke. And once you're broke, you can't help anyone. So that's a blunt assessment, but we can't be scared of this word profit. You do need to make a profit if you're going to stay in business for the long term. So you have to set your price right, you need to make sure you're taking into account the real delivery cost per hour, the fixed costs per hour, and the proportion of your profit target that each hour of billable service represents. Divide that by add that all together, and you're going to get the price that you should be charging. I hope that helps you understand how the best way is to set the price in your NDIS business. If you've got, I'm going to flick the camera back around and put it away here so I'm not really close. If you've got any questions or anything particular that you'd like me to explore in another video around business or leadership right across the way of running a successful business, please let me know in the comments or send me an email, whatever you'd like. Find me on Facebook at Provider Academy. Anything you'd like me to explore, send me a note or a message, and we'll look at that in a future video. Until we see you next time on the Provider Academy live video or podcast, keep on changing lives, keep on changing the world.